And we're live! Hello and welcome to the 116th episode of Unfollowed Gang. I'm Matty Allen with Brisology, Tobiwan Hexobi, and ChrispyMan of Hexfire.io. Welcome.
Welcome.
Brisology, and I've been unfollowed.
I didn't notice that you unfollowed me, Matty. Did you unfollow me?
No.
I unfollowed everybody.
Perma
did you really?
For ChrispyMan.
I do everything Richard Hart does.
Yeah,
nice.
I unfollowed all you plebs.
Yeah.
Now I'm just being fed TMZ on my Twitter feed.
I mean, that's pretty much what it's been for the last 3 years anyhow, hasn't it?
TMZ in politics, now that I unfollowed all my crypto people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was infamously unfollowed by Richard due to, I think, a misunderstanding like a
Prior
year
to
ago.
this week?
Prior to this
a
week.
year ago.
Remember? Yeah, because it was actually the last time that he streamed with Maddie. It was shortly after, and he streamed on Maddie's conference. And Maddie actually posed the question to him because it wasn't just me. It was like me and Abit, and like there was a handful of people that he was like, "Nope, you're out." Like he saw something he didn't like, and we were out. And he addressed it. And I was really appreciative that Maddie brought it to his attention because it was definitely causing some waves in the community. Like, what the hell, man? It's like Abit's out there grinding, Toby's grinding. What's happening? And he said, like, hey, he explained it again, which we all kind of knew already, but he reinforced it, which was like, I only follow people that I see posting stuff that I want my followers to see. So if I see people posting stuff and I'm following them, then the algorithm's going to feed that to my followers. So it's not personal. Appreciate what you guys are doing. You're out there, doing your good work. But, as far as socials go, if you're posting stuff that I don't want my followers to see, I will not follow you. Full stop. Not personal. So I'm like, I felt better about it, because I'm not going to lie, it did feel a little like, oh, man, that sucks. It's like, and I was like one of the first people he followed too. Like he only had like 150 people he was following when he followed me.
Wow.
And I've been around a long time and we had chatted on Telegram and everything else. So it felt personal, right? I mean, even though I knew it wasn't, like there was, to be square about it, it was like, it felt personal. So it's really, really funny to me now to see the various levels of cope on Twitter because there's so many like passive aggressive takes on the fact that they are now unfollowed. It just makes me laugh.
I see great joy in your face, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, but this ultimately, I think it will be a good thing for everyone. It's like, but they're going to have to get past their feelings about it.
So, I mean, Richard Hart is one of the richest men in the free world.
Allegedly.
There's 2,500 billionaires in the world, but most of those are in the legacy system where they don't even control their own money. They have to suck middleman D just to move $1 million. Actually, more like $10,000.
Yeah, and over 10.
Right? So what kind of power is that? Not much. It's a lot more like responsibility than anything because you also get thrown in jail if you don't bring value to your shareholders as like a billionaire. But yeah, so Richard Hart being one of the richest people in the free world holding crypto, it's crazy because he went from following about 1,400 of his most loyal followers, and then now zero.
Now, the math would not be hard to do, but one of the narratives that we had talked about in Highest of Stakes as far as marketing, especially as we were kind of talking about like the launch of the first movie and then potentially talking about a second, was that Richard could theoretically be positioned, Richard could theoretically be positioned to be the first trillionaire of record. So, yeah, I mean, so it wouldn't be hard to do. Look at the OA wallets. Everyone assumes those are his, and like, people are probably way more familiar with his crypto holdings than he cares for them to be. But it wouldn't be hard to do the math to see where things would have to go to where he would actually be a trillionaire.
Yeah.
So that'd be pretty.
Do we need a 50x or something?
Not much. I mean, he's got bags on his bags, bro. So it's like I think it's in. I mean, the reason it was even being talked about is it was prior to Pulse Chain launching, and then the speculation was like Pulse Chain was going to pump and whatever. So it's like if it does this many X's, then he's a trillionaire. So we can run with that. Like, hey, this is a trillionaire crypto founder. So It was an interesting conversation. And obviously, we've been kind of waiting for the 50-week shakeout and XYZ to unfold. And then, Yeah, it's just bear market stuff. People.
But we're in a bull
market.
market. What do you
Well,
mean,
are
bear
we?
market?
Are we? It doesn't feel bullish to me yet. Not yet. I mean, it's on the cusp. I can
The
smell
stock
the
market
bull.
is at all-time highs. Bitcoin
Stocks
is
market, schmuck
high.
market. Yeah, blah. It's like that's CFI. I'm talking about DeFi.
Dollar's never been worth less, except
Keep
compared
going
to
down,
other
baby.
currencies.
Keep
of
going
fiat.
down. Go BRICS. Go BRICS. Saudi Arabia didn't renew their contract.
That's
the
not
petrodollar.
true. That got
that bullshit?
community noted on Twitter.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I saw a
We
video
need to
last
tell
night. I'm like,
dollar
yikes.
cost. Yeah, we need to tell dollar cost.
Got it. Yeah, that was pretty widely reported. So I did not do my due diligence.
So I can understand why 1,400 people would be bummed out if, like, the richest dude in the world stopped following them. How do you guys feel about it, ChrispyMan and Brisology?
I'll go.
He was never following Briz anyhow, was he?
Yeah, he was.
Oh.
Of course he was.
Oh,
He was following me on multiple Twitter accounts. I have
All
old
right.
accounts.
nice.
That's the way to do it.
So-
that's
I
why
got
it's extra
it.
sad.
So how do you
go
feel?
ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on your answer. How do you feel about it?
Oh, I woke up and I just saw it, and obviously it was at 0, so it obviously wasn't a personal decision.
Right.
It was just
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. It's like when you said you woke up and you saw. I thought you said you woke up and you sobbed.
I woke up and I cried.
Just woke up and cried
I
immediately.
started weeping.
I sobbed a little bit.
But it's obviously
Yeah.
not a personal decision.
Right.
Should
be pretty clear to everyone.
So I'm just like, like whatever, it is what it is.
My eyes were raining.
And so yeah, it's not a big deal. I don't know, whatever.
I think it was HVID that pushed him over the edge.
No way.
Yeah, because did you see that tweet? Sami retweeted it, and she's like, "Fucking live stream, Richard," which I thought was fucking hilarious. I mean, of course, that's funny, and I'm just being silly. I'm sure that was not upsetting to him at all. And I literally thought to myself that might actually inspire him to do it, because sometimes men respond to.
Maddie, do you think maybe you pushed him over the edge?
We're going to talk about that.
I think it was Maddie. I
want to hear what ChrispyMan has to feel about it, and then we'll get into the conspiracy theories.
Yeah, thumbnail, real high level. I'm interested in seeing how his strategy works out. And the kind of the bigger thing. I get it because you know what? I see a lot of that going on too. Where people say, "Yeah, I'm right because of this," and I'm being followed, and I hear that, right? And I've seen that in some of the narratives of people. I get the idea behind it, but it also, kind of a little deeper take on it that we have I don't expect any answer to, is that we do have a multifaceted community that has to support or wants to support many things. And I did a blog post last week on hex maximalism. And what it really is difficult to try to manage all of these at one time. Like, how can you participate in Pulse Chain and say that you're a hex maximalist? Can you? Are you both? They're diverging ideas. And you could just break the subsets into a whole bunch of things. So I think it does become that, and what I mean by all this is, right. So I kind of like the idea because I would like more focus on hex. But that's not what we're really going to get just from Richard, right? Because he's if he is going to be posting, he's going to be posting about everything, not just hex. But remember, like in that whole maximalist viewpoint, there is no other token but hex. Why would you ever put, just like you wouldn't put any value into a different chain, Briz, why would you put any value into any other token but hex? And why would you do why would you do anything other than, store your value in the best, product market fit, right? And but even just saying that, everybody doesn't agree with what I just said. Right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, things splinter. So one way to eliminate having to differentiate all of this and keep the message strong or the signal strong is to take away all the noise. So it's gone. Plus,
Yeah.
not to mention, I mean, you guys see how many stupid damn bots and stuff show up on everything, right? So perhaps that'll cut down on that.
I'm eternally optimistic. So part of me thinks that maybe it has something to do with the trial, the court case, maybe just optics.
He was
perhaps.
pretty clear here. I feel like this is what Richard posted on June 9th. When you don't follow anyone, no one can shill trash and say, quote, buy this trash. RH follows me, end quote.
See, that was also the other thing. I was using his follow as a barometer of how crazy I could actually talk. So, like,
that's right, you were.
Like, what was that?
You announced that publicly on this show.
Yep.
Yeah, I was like,
Pushing the envelope.
If I say something a little too out of pocket, like unfollow me, and then I'll dial it back. But until then, I'm just gonna go crazier and crazier. But
so
now
you
I don't have
suggested
that barometer.
You lost your barometer. Look out.
What?
So this is all your fault.
Pretty much.
Nice try, Maddie. You're not out of the hot seat yet. You're not out of the hot seat yet. Can I take the role of the fearmonger in all of this?
Make me fearful, baby.
This isn't that, and I tweeted this already, so people can read it.
I like the excitement.
I feel like, it could be speculated that this is just another slow walk toward the door of disappearing forever. Right? Because that's a fear. That's a fear that people have, that Richard's just going to go. He's dropped hints about Satoshi, right? Like Satoshi just being...
Satoshi died.
Satoshi probably did die. But exactly, he's got the longevity thing on his side. But the point being, there are people out there that have that feeling like, well, there's all this bullshit he puts up with. He's got all this money. Maybe he's kind of staying at this level until the SEC thing blows over. So there's not this rally of users that come out of the woodwork and be like, yeah, it's like he disappeared now. Well, fuck him. And then all of a sudden, like the sentiment shifts. So, there is an argument. There's people grumbling out there saying that, this could be just him playing it cool until he's in the clear. And then he's like, fuck all you idiots. I'm out. Sink or swim. I built it. Go do it. It's there for you. I didn't, that was the only promise of any that I made. I delivered on it. Here it is. It works. Now it's yours. So now, do I think that's going to happen? No. I think there's going to be a glorious, triumphant return, and there's going to be a victory laps like we've never seen in our lives. Like when, things actually where he's vindicated from all of these things. Because, how could he not, right? I can't imagine a person that would not want to be like, I've been set free.
I'm a trillionaire.
I'm a trillionaire, right?
Too much of a social person. I don't think he wants to disappear. Like part of me goes, when I like really, really cash out of crypto, I'm like, am I just gonna disappear from crypto Twitter and like the RH Twitter stuff?
Maybe.
And I don't know. I found this to be, part of my lifestyle now. Being on the shows, it's part of, my persona, I guess. And so, like, I don't want to go away. And I really don't think Richard wants to go. I think Richard wants to do in-person meetups. He said he wants to do in-person meetups as soon as COVID went away. And so I don't think he's going away at all.
Well, further to the point of like, saying that this could be a legal thing in part, he also posted here under his tweet about the founder of Bitcoin not following anyone on X working well. He said, this account also follows Zero as well. When you don't read Twitter, but follow people, You have no idea what trash might be fed by the algo to your followers. Thus, to protect your followers, it's safer to follow no one. No one can claim, buy this trash, RH follows me, ethics win. So that's twice that he quoted this idea of buy this trash, RH follows me.
Mhm.
Where do we
Yes.
think that comes from?
Has
Is that
anyone
making you,
launched any,
feel any kind
has
of way?
anyone launched any trash coins lately?
I would say probably
joking.
everybody on YouTube has launched a trash coin
Everyone.
lately. But
To stay
yeah,
to stay on the side of like fearmonger and like the contrarian, I already know the answer to these questions, but it's like, Maddie, you launched a token. You're a crypto founder now, right? It's like you got this Maddie token out there.
False.
And what?
False.
What do you mean false?
I didn't
wait.
launch a
Funding
token.
Gem
Gem
launched
did.
it.
I
Oh,
added liquidity.
got it. And all due respect to Bweezy Bird, but I don't think you're broke. I've hung out with you. You're not broke.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
I think we fought over a check or two in our times out together. So I don't think a broke guy would do that. So that's true. So that's been dispelled.
Yeah.
And plus it's like minor, and like you're not, I don't think that, it's all on the blockchain. So couldn't people see if you were enriching yourself with this endeavor?
I've never sold a Maddie token. And yeah, everything's on chain. So it's like, to point out what other people are saying, really, I don't follow people who are really launching trash, in the sense that maybe I'm not going to go out of my way to unfollow them, but like I'm really not paying attention. Like the GIF token or whatever the crap that is that keeps launching like 4 coins in a row or something. Like, I don't know anything about that. Like, I don't pay, when people start talking about that, I turn off the stream. So, I think like there's plenty of things.
It's actually pretty cool.
There's plenty of things that, in my opinion, like they aren't worth my time investigating. And like, I wouldn't even know what all the trash is that people are launching. What kind of Rube Goldberg schemes are out there. And I know that recently there was some drama because Fashion Coder had launched something on Solana.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was her because someone was telling me about it, and I'm like, I don't even know who that is. And like, is there like Bestie something, Crypto Bestie? And I'm like, who's Crypto Bestie? And then I went and looked it up. I'm like, oh wow, it's like okie dokie then. So.
And yeah, so it's caused everybody to like make some like tough calls, about like where the line is and all that good kind of stuff. But for me, I posted a banger earlier today. This is actually the longest tweet that's possible, even when you pay Twitter $24,000 a year.
You found the upper limit? No way.
Correct. Yeah. So
That's
this is literally, I had like maybe 5 characters to spare.
Well crafted. I read that
on a hard mode there. And this is just kind of addressing a number of things. Just kind of like, what's going on with Richard, and how's the algo going to treat unfollowing 1,400 people all at once, and how's that going to affect the reach, and what's up with this Vitalik inflicted gas bug in eHex that hasn't been helping morale either, and is RH purposefully getting less views? Is he sacrificing the flock to save the idiots who fall for the imposter scams? Is he simply shaking out the weak hands so that PLS, Hex, Inc., and PLSX can soar? Is he decentralizing to fight the corrupt SEC? And then I put a paragraph here about how I don't even entertain the idea that Richard's given up. He's not going away. He's always done unpopular things to reward true believers. His track record is on chain indisputably. And it would take a lot more than this to shake out the core believers that I see in our community, which is the strongest community on X. And then I talk about how much it sucks to delay gratification and how I've never launched a token. I've never rug pulled anybody. I'm not broke, blah, blah, blah. All the funds here on chain, so on and so forth. I haven't extracted any value through Maddie token. And then here's an interesting bit of game theory that I mean this tweet has just like blown up. So it's, even though it's excessively long, like people seem to really vibe with it. And so one of the ideas here that you guys have heard me say on the show before, but maybe I didn't present so succinctly, is if Hex never went to 55 cents in 2021, but it topped out at 5 cents, then people would be less butthurt today. I believe we would be much higher now. Why? Well, reflexivity, network effects, and people would have sacrificed 10 times less. Whatever, insert whatever number you want, 2.5x less, whatever, 5x less. And so Pulse and Pulse X would be however many X more scarce. So that's an interesting idea.
I don't know that I agree that it would necessarily be higher, but I get your point.
Well, it'd be more scarce, it would be more rare, and people who were dumping like Nick Cherry wouldn't have had so many millions of dollars to dump.
How would Hex be more rare in this case?
So if the price of Hex was lower, then you wouldn't have gotten as much credit for sacrificing Hex. And we know that, like, what was it? Like, was it a third or a half of the value?
You think people would have bought more Hex and sacrificed more at a lower value?
No. What I'm saying is, like, compared, so like you had no Hex was sold from the sacrifice.
True.
Right. And people who were already in Hex who got a 1000X up until that point, or a 10,000X, they got to sacrifice at the current value. But everybody who was outside of the ecosystem, they had to come in with their fresh dollars, or they had to put in like Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever it was. And so like if Hex hadn't gone so high and it had done 10x less, then there would have been 10x less sacrifice credits for people who were sacrificing Hex. And so that would have reduced the amount of Pulse and Pulse X in circulation, because remember it was 10,000 points, blah, blah, blah. But then it was also, there was no cap, right? So if the USD value of what everybody sacrificed was less, then the amount of Pulse X and Pulse X would have been less.
Yeah, I suppose. I can see your point there. All right.
Yeah. And that 5x or 10x difference, I think would be a big difference now.
Well, but you're also, I hear you. I mean, it's just not something you're gonna be able to nail down like mathematically and say this is true. But I get your idea, and think tank wise, this could be one of the ideas, because I could argue the other way around. So, some people were so excited by the going up as high as it did, they put more value in.
Well, to sacrificing, but then
because all those people that came from outside the community, why were they attracted? Because the extreme green candles, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of factors there. I mean, I think it's implied that it's theorizing. Yeah. So,
but I like your train of thought, right? I mean, I would just say this is one possible scenario, right?
Leave it to the math guy to pick out the math stuff.
And this is also part of like why the Maddie token experiment was interesting, is because there was like an implied ceiling of $20 based on like the meme of like being a $20 bill. And so that also was particularly interesting because it kind of demonstrated somewhat my point here.
Yeah, strong narratives matter, right? I mean, they do. I mean, they're not always as clean and crisp, right, as 10,000x, $20, $1 P-die, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, they do matter because it does motivate people, because it gives them something to focus on. You just say it's really going to go up high. I mean, what does that mean? right? Everybody's always looking. I mean, I'm just kind of generalizing here, but what, we go to the media, what are they always talking about? What would your Bitcoin be worth today if you bought it in $1,000 worth in 2013? Insert other asset.
Yeah.
What would your Tesla be worth? What would your Amazon be worth? What would, because everybody's trying to get to that magic $1 million number. I want that 1000x. So yeah, narrative wise, I think good narrative. Yeah.
So, yeah, and the 10,000x was just based arbitrarily on like Ethereum doing a 14,000x
right? Yeah.
before Hex launched, and it's
Hey,
yes.
can we do something here? Can we go a little like narrow focus, and then we can go out broader again, like to stay on what the thumbnail was about, which like the Unfollowed gang, because it's like I think it was a broad kind of, I don't know how to phrase it, like not chastising, but basically saying like, hey, I'm doing this because of the people I was following. There were probably more than a handful that were shilling shit and kind of trying to use Richard as clout to get people to go chase these other things, right? So that's the broad focus. The narrow focus, so I want to go to for a moment, because Maddie was kind of put on the hot seat a little bit by a number of people, and it's like, I like Bweezy Bird. Bweezy points out some interesting stuff to me periodically. He's and I think that he's a good bellwether for a general vibe of how things are playing out in the community, and a great example of how a lot of times it's because people don't have all the information that they will jump to very understandable conclusions, because there have been so many rugs and shills and scams and failed projects and sacrifices that disappeared, and you name it. Once you throw your hat in that ring for any reason, it's going to be a real uphill battle to dispel that you are somehow different than all the rest. So I think, Maddie, my question would be, and I don't know, because I've been a little out of the loop, and maybe you've already shared this. Have you given more detail? Because I really feel like, because I got a loose idea kind of where you're going with this whole project, but have you given any more detail as far as like the end game or your ultimate goal with how this thing works? Because I feel like if people understood what I think it is, that all this would be dispelled. But that also could go against what maybe you're low-key doing, which is keeping people talking about it almost in an outrage marketing kind of way. So what do you think?
Do you have a more specific question?
Yeah, like do you have any more details out yet about like what happens next with this project?
I don't think people understand what's already happened. So yeah,
right.
I don't think people are ready for what's next.
Okay.
But
I just think like I think once they see like what's on the horizon of it, I think that a lot of the backlash would go away, and that's okay. I mean, because then that just gives people more time to talk about it, interact with tweets like this, throw some hate, get educated or not, and then because it's like, I think there are handfuls of projects out there that are not bad. I mean, it's like Richard even said in a follow-up tweet today about how he loved us and like he wants the builders to keep building, right? So it's like, is it some mixed messaging? Well, maybe. How do you qualify it, right? Because it's shout out to everyone for doing good work. You're appreciated. I keep up the good fight, and I love that you do too, right? So I mean, that's a pretty affirming message to people out there that are doing the good work. Now the question is, okay, is he including builders on that? Is he including people that are creating their own tokens? Is he, what's he mean? Does he just mean people that are talking about his projects? So it's a little ambiguous, but that's all right. And
people
I think
who are doing good work. Everyone.
People are doing good work, right?
Everyone doing good work.
Doing good work, right?
Yes.
Right. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like I think it just goes back to like, what did we sacrifice for? Freedom of speech. What has been one of his chief arguments in this SEC thing? Blockchain is freedom of speech, right? So it's like, if people are allowed to do whatever the fuck they want to do on the blockchain as a expression of free speech, then buyer beware. This isn't fucking rocket science, people. And that's why I get so upset when people go after founders or tokens or other projects. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to end up being one of the wrecked, right? And all this virtue signaling and people like trying to seem like they're, the savior of all I think they're just deluded. or maybe naive or maybe a little immature and just don't understand kind of how shit works. That's going to happen all the time. If you've been in the business world enough, like in real life business world, dude, there are pitfalls around every corner. And it is God, get into corporate America. It's ladder climbing, cutthroat, disgusting shit. Crypto's no different. It's a different little bubble of the same behaviors, and the same rules to keep you safe apply. Do your research, right? Don't go all in on something that you don't fully understand. Maybe don't go all in on anything. And obviously not financial advice, but you need to do your own research on anything that comes across your radar. And if you don't like it, then guess what? You don't need to engage with it. Focus on the other stuff. Be louder. Do what we're doing. Go fucking get on a stream. Go start your own stream. Talk about Hex. Talk about Pulse Chain. Talk about the things that you like, right? So, I mean, I think that it's like, and my final little point here, the Mr. Rogers thing came to mind, and he was talking about like a little boy, like asking, I believe, about like a tragedy on TV, and there was like an ambulance and something bad had happened, and he was a little nervous about it. And he told him to focus. He goes, look for the helpers. Because anytime there's a situation like that, there's going to be some people in that group that are helping. And if you focus on that, I feel like that's just kind of a good way to not only perceive the world, but also to engage with it. Like, be a helper, right? I mean, it's like everybody can point out what's wrong or what they think's wrong. It's fucking boring. It's like people bloviating about politics and stuff. Go run for office. Go do something on a local level. Like, engage in some way. Do something. But it's like, if you're just going to bloviate about like what other people are doing, fuck off, because I would much rather be talked about than be talking about other people. So I'm going to go keep doing what I do, and I onboard in real life, and I do what I can to help on streams like this with these wonderful gentlemen. And I'm going to keep doing that, bear market or no. It's like, discouraged or not, I'm going to fucking keep doing my part as good or as little as it moves the needle or not. And I would suggest other people do the same and fucking quit this bullshit back and forth on Twitter. It's juvenile and a waste of energy, and it's a turnoff. I literally thought about deactivating my Twitter today. Like, it's just so gross. There's so much gross shit, and it's only going to get grosser with the elections coming. So I'm like, wow, do I really want to feed my brain this? So anyhow, end of rant.
For what it's worth, I block people who are toxic on Twitter, and I really enjoy Twitter. I don't get pulled down by the negativity. Look, if people want to say things about me that aren't true on the internet, I don't have any control over that, and it doesn't particularly bother me these days, because I know what I've done. The blockchain knows what I've done, and the blockchain is open and transparent. And so people who are just promoting division, that's a subculture. That's not our overarching culture in Hex. And just because people like to do that, I welcome people who want to have like the Jerry Springer vibe going on 24/7, because they're going to attract a group of people, and they're doing an outrage thing that like is popular with some people. I want everybody to be in crypto, because crypto gives people freedom. Crypto removes middlemen, and it removes governments from, by and large, from trying to enslave humanity and rob everybody in their sleep. So I think we're on the right track here, being in Hex and Pulse Chain. And, I think that there are experiments that are going to be misunderstood, and there are people who are going to criticize. That's part of the storming and norming that ChrispyMan has so wisely observed over the years. This is part of how cultures and cults get set, and how they evolve and grow, is that people who disagree squabble in the leadership, and then sub-factions form, and the group knows what it is that everybody believes, so forth, so on and so forth. So, I know those are broad strokes for all this, and to, speak specifically, I would say that I I can't read Richard's mind, and I don't know if me taking Gary's token counts as like, shilling trash to his followers. Uh, you know, I have like, some pretty good observations here of like what's happened, and I think that what I've done in the space has still stood apart from 99% of what's out there. So I don't feel bad about using Matty token to add liquidity and to run this experiment. Because I told everybody what it was from the beginning. And I don't believe that I ever said RH follows me, buy this trash. However, if
That would
if
make sense. That would be probably a
if
bad sentence. Yeah.
if people, if somehow somebody interpreted it that way, I don't know how they would have seen that. But the one thing that I do know that I can change about my behavior to always be improving myself is I think I'm going to take the nice things that RH said about me out of my hex therapy intro, because somebody pointed out to me that he was talking about me being a therapist as being the thing that he liked so much about what I was doing. And I don't want it to be confused with all the other things that I'm doing here, which I think are also on the right track and also wholesome and like ethical. I just don't want that perception, and I don't want it to seem like I'm not like I'm not aware that some people could misconstrue it that way. And so that is a change that I'm going to make, is I'm going to change the hex therapy intro to not include Richard praising me.
I can appreciate that you doing that. I do appreciate that, Matty. This conversation go on all night. We can keep going and digging deeper into this, taking swipes at it, because I think at the root of it is going to be over and over again, what is right and what is wrong. And man, people, I don't know, people have different opinions anyways, right? I mean, that's just how it is in general. I mean, you ever done any of those Myers-Briggs or any of those other types of psychological profiles? You get the four of us, we're likely probably all score differently, right? We're all in different groups, and they'd give you one of those stupid word problems and be like, hey, you guys, you're a think tank, and X, Y, and Z happen. And they typically, like in leadership stuff, they'll be like, are you going to fire this person? What are your actions going to be? And then, like Toby be like, no, I absolutely wouldn't fire him. I understand. I'd be like, no, bullshit. The rule says fire him. And Briz would be like, well, I don't know. We need more information, and that's just how people are, and kind of like.
No, I would be in the fire him camp.
Yeah, I know. You'd be like, burn him.
Who are we firing?
Is the Briggs one that had the Myers-Briggs? I think, is that the one that has like the 4 letters that indicate different? Yeah. Mine was an NSFW. I didn't.
Oh yeah. You're. I'm an ENTP.
That's not.
That's not one.
Well, it's very cool. Well, it's not exactly the right acronym, but I got what he meant from it.
Well, it's not
extroverted feeler type of thing, right?
Maybe, I don't know. I did take it long ago, and it was pretty compelling. Did an MMPI too, I think, is another one.
Oh yeah,
Matty would know.
Watch out for that.
Did that years
Correct.
I was kind of thinking Richard
it is interesting.
was following a lot of clowns, and he probably didn't realize who was the clown and who isn't. And so instead of picking them out
100%.
one by one like weeds, he was probably like, what, I'm just gonna clear the slate, and now I'm not following anyone. And I personally believe, I don't think Richard's gonna stay at following 0 people forever. So I kind of think that maybe after we go through the fire and we come out the other side, he's going to see who was here posting positive messages and who was here tweeting dumb negative shit, like posting pictures of Richard with his gut over his belt line or something. Like, fuck those people. Like, we don't need those people, or Richard doesn't need those people. They're just a sink on his mental energy. You know, they're energy vampires. And so he'll probably start following people, you know, maybe in a year or so. I think we could have another year of this type of price action in this ecosystem. And so
Oh yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah, we could do that. We could have another 8 months of it. Sure, 9 months. I
so
mean, and it would be in the realm of possibility with 4-year cycles. So
43 OG, he says, what? We haven't been through the fire yet? No. We're still inside the pot. The water's just getting warm. We're about to be boiled alive, baby.
yeah, and I don't know. Have you guys ever heard this? Does anybody say this in the back room? So like when I go, I'm part of a bunch of different think tank type areas and stuff, and people have literally come out and said, "Hey, you know, in their rationale why they think a project's good, we're talking about it all the time. Richard Hart sees it. He follows me or he follows them. He must approve it." So I mean, I
Oh,
don't.
people said that?
Yeah, you haven't seen people. I've heard people say that verbally.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
you know, I'm not good with examples, but I mean, that's the kind of stuff he's talking about for sure.
Okay.
I
sure.
even said that because when I was going P-Hex Maxi,
Oh yeah, that's right. You're the one.
I was like, well, here's the deal. Was Richard followed me a very long time ago, and then the first time he unfollowed me, it was because I tweeted about Pulse Doge and the ASIC coin. And
For
then
shame.
like, I know, right? But in the first month, I got like 60% APR if you extrapolated it. And I was like, hey, look at that, you know, like that's pretty good, right? And then I noticed like he unfollowed me. I was like, ah, it must have been that Pulse Doge tweet.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, and then that whole thing, and then I kind of got out of that, and then that whole thing fell apart. And so I honestly, him unfollowing me kind of like woke me up. I'm like, yeah, what am I doing tweeting this bullcrap about? I'm all gonna get out of this thing, and then it just completely
relief.
collapsed.
Well, and it also
Richard
kind of
Hart
speaks
saved
to,
you.
Well, it speaks to
Richard Hart
why
saved me.
any of us might be on socials. Like, I mean, I know for me, it's like I think my Twitter account goes back to like 2009 or something, but I hadn't done anything on Twitter until Hex, and then that's when I started being more active again. And it was primarily for
Wait, Toby. I need to finish
communication
my
about this.
story. I was
Oh,
going
sorry, go ahead.
somewhere with that.
Sorry.
That was the first time he unfollowed me.
Hmm.
And then like I was like, you know what? I'm making fun of all these other people who are crying about being unfollowed by Richard Hart, including like Toby. And so I'm like, I kept on, I'm like, Toby, quit fucking crying about Richard Hart unfollowing you. And so because I gave Toby such a hard time, I could never I was like, I'm never gonna beg for a follow. But then I started going all P-Hex Maxi with Furu Finance, and I said, look, you know, Richard's not even following me, and he's following you, and you have these opinions. And then that's when Richard refollowed me. He's like, well, I am following. He's like, I'm following you. And so he refollowed me. And so I was like, all right, I feel like what I am saying is on the correct path of what Richard Hart wants to be said. So until he like unfollows me, I'm gonna keep talking my bull crap that everyone hates.
Well, yeah, well, that was kind of my point as far as, you know, what is the purpose of your social media presence, right? Like, I mean, obviously my name is not Tobiwan Hexobi, you know, it is a pseudonym that I use for my name is Toby, you know, so dig around. There's a few of us out there, but the reality is that this is a persona that I have adopted, a pseudonym for my crypto social presence, right? And so it made me think too, like, okay, well, what am I doing here? And it's like the whole thing is I really, really believed in the Richard Hart ecosystem and Hex, in delayed gratification and staking ladders and T-shares and all the stuff that you taught us, and then all the other sci-fi stuff too, right? I mean, he's got a lot of really good insights. So I felt like it was almost like more of a, maybe this will sound a little cultish, but it's like a hex philosophy, if you will. And I got some people that, that laughed at me and gave me shit about that and stuff. But I mean, I really had that kind of passion about it early on. That's what kind of got me hooked. Like this is a guy that really wants the world to be a better place. Like, this isn't just a talking point. Like, he really wants this to happen. And this is where he sees his best chance of facilitating that. So, and that's what I was using my platform for without knowing it. And then, it was around that same time, Briz, it's like I was talking about Pulse Bitcoin. But my point of talking about was not like bragging about anything I'd made on it necessarily. It was to stay engaged with that community, because I felt like people were chasing that shiny object. And I wanted to reinforce to them, hey, look at the founders. The founders have healthy hex staking ladders. That's how they can afford to do this. So maybe do as they do and not as they say, right? Like, build yourself a hex staking ladder first, and then if you want to fuck around. And obviously he didn't see it in context, and I got nixed. But it did kind of, with Maddie's help and Richard clarifying and me kind of get my feelings in check, because I was, not gonna lie, a little butthurt about it. Because I felt like one of the chosen ones a bit, and had put in so much effort on Telegram as an admin and you name it for years. But it did make me kind of reassess it. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, what do I want my followers to see? Do I want to lead people into harm's way potentially? And then now, like, as the stories progressed for all of us, like even RG3's catching all kinds of shit now. I saw on Twitter about, his launching of Gifford tech or whatever, right, with Kinetics. And it's like, and I mean, talk about like a feeling of betrayal. I can see how people would look at that like, whoa, it's like RG3. It's like, he's like, he's in the movie, for Christ's sake, right? So not Hexobi, but yeah, main character, right? So it's like, so all of those things do, beg the question, like, where is the line, right? Like, how do you talk about other projects? And my thinking always had been before, like, I will talk about other things because they're of interest to me, but I will not endorse anything with RH products. But that's blurry. That's still blurry, right? Because it's like, then what are you going to do? Have a disclaimer at the bottom of everything you ever say? And Richard's take is basically like, if you speak about anything other than what you want people to be in, then you are complicit in them getting wrecked. So I don't know, man. I think everyone has to make that decision for themselves, like where they draw that personal line of like, what they're going to talk about publicly or not. And it also is very relative to how big your following is. Like, Maddie's got the biggest following of all of us. So, things that he does is gonna, move the needle more than what we do, or potentially harm people, right? And that's something to be cognizant of. But if people are paying attention long term to what any of us here are saying, I think they all fully understand that we are like definitely all about RH core tokens and what they can, the platform that it's providing for all this other stuff. And then buyer beware, for everything else, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The coffee worked.
All right.
The can of coffee went straight to my mouth.
Late night coffee.
I know, right? I had to, dude. I was fading hard. I had to like
respect.
pick it up.
But Richard unfollowing everyone, it also kind of, when I woke up and saw that, I also kind of got a little bullish.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I just kind of felt like, he was preparing to go on like a mission, and like he went in the dark mode. He's just like, I don't know. It just feels bullish to me. It just feels like there's something going on here, right? And it's like he hasn't gone away. He's obviously active on Twitter every single day. So I don't know. I'm pretty bullish. I think, I don't think there's anything to worry about, guys.
Well, it could just be too, Briz, to your point, that it's almost like trimming the fat. You know what I mean? Like, just taking away anything that's, and obviously I'm just speculating here, but maybe it's kind of stemming from what he's going through with like the SEC stuff. And like, even prior to all that, coming to to bear on him, he was always very, very specific with his language, right? It's like he always knew, like he would even joke, like, I'm not trying to catch a case, right? But it's like, so he was very, very specific. Like I remember one little blurb in particular where he was really going hard about Gary Gensler, who was saying, I'm not speaking on behalf of the SEC. And he was like, okay, Gary, well, then that means you're speaking personally. So then you're personally liable for moving markets with, like, you know, these statements you're making. So he's always been very, very cognizant of that. So I think that maybe it's just a progression of that logic or philosophy. If his follower or who he's following is you know, algorithmically an extension of like what he supports or what he wants to put out in the world, by him trimming that away, then it's like just a leaner, meaner Richard, right? It's like, all it is me. It's like, here I am. Algo can't give you shit because I don't follow anybody. And if you want like what's real, it's kind of like what, it was funny because Richard himself was who told me to do this. And it was the early days of the Hex chat. And it was just getting busier and busier. And we were just getting flooded with so much bullshit. And we were doing our best to, like, you know, kick people or ban them or mute them or explain to people like, hey, you can only talk about this here. And there's other places for that. And I'm like, dude, I just want to listen to what you have to say primarily. Obviously, I'll do my job that I signed up for here, which is help with the admin on the chat. And he goes, well, you know, you can search Telegram by poster. And he like literally told me, he was like, yeah, it's like you hit the freaking magnifying glass and then you hit the little person icon and then you type in the person and then it will only show you what they're saying. Well, guess what? You can do that on Twitter. Like I have a list that's literally composed of one person, Richard Hart.
Correct.
And most of the time I just go to that list and then I see whatever Richard's had to say for the day. And those are typically my best days. And then I get off Twitter. If I go to my other and I see everything else, then sometimes I get pulled into some distressing rabbit holes because I want everyone to get along. And it's like, it just seems like it's impossible.
It'll come.
Hex Monkey has been super supportive of all of us over the years, and he's a great guy and did a $20 super chat here saying, caring about getting followed or getting unfollowed and feeling butthurt never made any sense to me. It's not a human making a personal decision in real life. It's a Twitter avatar, which may have purpose other than being friendly to. And I think that, you know, it's from, you know, on one hand, it's about time that Richard said no more shilling trash, because a lot of trash has been shilled. So, you know, don't we want the one guy who founded all this? Don't we want him saying only buy these things, only buy Hex, Pulse, PulseX, and Ink? Like, somebody has to say that, right?
That's what I'm here for.
I think there's some thought leadership going on, you know, that like, sure, my feelings might have gotten in the way of. And I think there is, as Brisology said, a very bullish case for the idea that maybe, you know, millions and millions of dollars that have been scattered into the wind, maybe if that stopped, that would help the core tickers. Now we got a special guest joining us, and
but before Gary comes on, I just want to say I like what Crypto Ewok was saying, where maybe Richard is protecting us.
Yeah,
you know, like you, Maddie, you received a letter from the SEC, and you know the only way
as a witness.
But they still sent it to you, and they sent it to other people, and they probably went through like the people he was following, and then they, you know, found, you know, everyone probably through that. But you know, now that he's not following anybody, maybe, you know, they can't really go after his people anymore.
That'd be great. Corrupt SEC can stand down. What's up, Gary?
Hey, everybody. I just saw the name of it, and I saw like the past like 5-10 minutes of the stream. And, you know, there's the news event, if it's news, about the unfollowing. That's the title of your stream.
Yeah.
This has a long history. How long have most of us been here? 6 years, maybe 7 years? It's not like it's a new event. This is something that's new on Twitter about like, and then there's speculation about like, maybe it's because of the SEC. Maybe it's because somebody else like shilled a coin that wasn't the RH ticker. This is what Richard told me when he removed me from being admin on most of the channels on Twitter, on Telegram.
Yeah.
This frees you. That's what he said. He didn't say you fucked up my group. You were talking about things that I wouldn't have talked about. He didn't say any of that stuff. He messaged me directly and said, this liberates you. This allows you to be unmuzzled. Now, do you care about some characteristic of crypto? You say, hey, I need it to be decentralized to stand behind it. I need it to be a deflationary supply that's being burned away. Whatever your characteristic is that you care about. If it's T-shares, it's T-shares, and that's what you care about. If you think that 5 out of the 150 blockchains that are popular right now are mostly meme coin chains, they're very much supporting meme coins, and that is what is in the market at the moment. Maybe it comes in 9 months, maybe it comes in a year, but like this is an opportunity for people to just basically assess what do they want to do. Like Toby said, with your social media, you can turn off your Twitter, you can disconnect your Instagram, you can go away and just play the anonymous I like crypto guy and just buy, just stake, just farm, just whatever it is you want to do. But if you're going to be like a public figure in this and you're going to have like a social media platform, this actually liberates you. One of the few people that I've seen over the past, let's say, year that really engages outside of this community is Maddie. Maddie is on these channels. He's in Twitter spaces with 4,000 or 5,000 people. He takes the slings and arrows. He takes it from different subcultures inside of this community. He takes it from OGs. He takes it from whatever you want to call it as far as slings and arrows. But I respect it, Maddie, because he's constantly growing his following. And he's constantly communicating outside of this muzzled, throttled, Richard might not like me kind of narrative. It's stupid. I don't think that that's useful to the chain. I don't think it's useful to the community. Brandon and I made a big effort. A lot of people supported the fact that we made a big effort to basically step outside of this community specifically through the Connect app and all the valuetainment stuff and stuff like that. And I would like this to be a catalyst for others, not just as far as like what Maddie does or what I do or Brandon does. Brandon's going to change some of his content. He's going to change like his frame and stuff like that, because we really want to maximize the opportunity to talk to people that are not here, not to fucking baby each other and not to say, oh, wow, this group might not like me because I said something, or Richard might unfollow me. Now you're liberated, man. You're liberated just like when you're no longer participating in Telegram. We talk about the old days of like the Telegram days. I spent thousands of hours there too. But how much do we actually do Telegram now?
Everyone is liberated to make bad decisions now.
Yeah, you do.
Well,
because your character as a public figure is going to be represented by the chart. Like, it is one thing to say that's trash when there's 99% down charts. How do you say that? It's because we are terrible at marketing. We simply talk to the same people moving the same furniture around for 5 years. That's what we do. And when Maddie goes out there and tries to engage something new, I think that, we had this this consensus event, and Maddie's talking to new people, new audiences, new people, whether they're influencers or not, whether they're developers or not, about some of the tech that he has developed, him and his developers have developed. And some of it is very security oriented and very like, it can save new users basically from the errors of like the learning curve that we all go through. And I think that he got respect from some of the people that are outside of this chain, but still like pay attention to the fact that new things are being built. Maybe it's an experiment that doesn't have an ROI. Maybe it's an experiment that people snipe some supply and then they get upset.
Also, Maddie didn't need to be unfollowed to do that.
But like that's the thing. Maddie is trying new things. And so the people that sit and suck their thumb for fucking years are annoying.
Yeah, I think that there's more than one audience that we're dealing with here. On this show, we've always catered to people who are not new. And it's been the whales and the sharks and the dolphins who they need to remain engaged in order to not sell their bags. Having a price is a product of buyers and sellers. So you need both. You need, if you want the price to go up, you need people not selling, or you need more people buying. And I think, I've always been interested in like going out there, like I'm doing the Mario Knopfwall spaces. So 4,000 people are listening live. I've done in between like 15 and 20 of these now, where I'm soft shilling Pulse Chain to people who have never heard of it. And going to the Ethereum conference, talking to all these super interesting, influential people. I went to LA to the All In summit with all these Silicon Valley guys that are really impressive. They're building SpaceX and Twitter and Apple, like all middle management people. And yeah, like the way that I present the ideas to them is different than the way I present it to people who are already in the space. And I think both have great value to keep the people who are here engaged and to reach new audiences. But it's a different conversation, and it's a different messaging that you're going to do. And we have awesome strengths in that in this community. And yeah, everybody's going to find their groove in terms of like who's your target audience and how could that change over time and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, can I add something to this? I think Gary will add some great value to my comment, I think. Strong narrative rising right now that we don't need nothing else other than RH tokens. And I get the concept. It kind of goes back to the maximalism thought again, this idea of protecting our own, supporting, et cetera, et cetera. But I think people just are missing the point that unless you truly think there's going to be one single entity that's going to bring all the value in and pump all the bags for everybody so everybody can sell at the top. That isn't really how crypto works. I mean, Richard's explained it a number of times. People have to come in and do what they're going to do, whether that's hodl, trade, or whatever, into your chain. That's how value gets exchanged. It's not even though it feels magical at times, it's really not that much magic, right? People have to come in and sell bottoms. They got to buy the top, sell the bottoms, transfer value, a little bit of chicken game. We try to beat it with hex staking for sure, right? By playing the long game, but that's what's got to happen. And so this whole narrative, when I wear my maxi hat, I feel that way too. I'm like, don't touch anything else. But I think what it leads at least a portion of our community down is this path of we don't need anything else. Stop building. Don't tell me about these tokens. And it's just never going to be clean like that. It's just not a clean black and white story.
Oh, Richard, I can't remember what stream it was, but he says that people, like, I think he said something about maybe it was NFTs. I can't remember what it was, but he said something about human beings get tired of games and they want to try new games. So like, that's part of the narrative around like, this is new. What are you going to talk about that's new? I mean, Maddie has some new things as far as Time Pays Me and his other lockup kind of protocols. Sure. Those are interesting. They're not necessarily incentivized, as he's made comments before, as far as like an ROI. It's more about like good habits and such as far as ERC or PRC 20s. I think that there's again, I'm not advocating new shitcoins. I am saying that this is liberating. And if you're going to continue to be a content creator, if you're going to continue to be a public face, whether it's this community or some new community you're going to spawn, I think that that's the purpose of crypto. We still talk negatively about Bitcoin. Why? It's $70,000. Like, why do we talk negatively about
dude.
Bitcoin?
Can you imagine? Can you imagine with a straight face telling somebody, "Hey, you know what? If you get into Bitcoin a year from now, it'll be 3x, and you're in TradFi," and be like, "That's terrible. That's terrible."
Yeah.
But that is how we
telling
feel.
people that, and they called me a Bitcoin maxi.
You are. Well, that's what I mean. I mean, there are these different camps and these different beliefs, and they're not all. It's not black and white that everything's either right or wrong. It's just not that way. There are flavors of it. It's just like I don't go out and invest in CDs at this time, but I mean, CDs pay. Certificates of deposit pay, and a lot of people in the world still do it. It's going to be a 12 trillion by 2030, right? Something in that neighborhood. And so perfect segue into Hex, but that doesn't mean everybody's going to move 100%. And it's just like within our community, we're going to have these different areas, and we have to understand how to be able to get along with them.
Yeah, and again, it goes to our conversation we always talk about. Like you said, if we're talking about only one thing and it's in the RH ecosystem and it's been spawned by RH, then it's like okay. But like like most people that have an ETF, they don't have one product ETF. They usually have many ETFs, so they have many products or mutual funds, right? People that invest in the stock market, it's rare that they have one stock and someone would bet it all on one stock. Like, again, that's part of that dilution thing that we all hate is like, oh man, I don't want you to talk about this other thing or buy this other thing because it dilutes the potential of you buying my coin and letting me dump on you later. Like, that's part of the narrative that's undertone. Undertone is let's wait until the masses get here a year from now and then we'll be such good guys because we'll dump on everybody then. That's a horrible narrative. I hate that narrative. I like what Maddie did. Just 1 second. I like what Maddie did when, and again, I don't have anything as far as Maddie token. I gave away all the token. I'm named as far as like the originator of it, but like I don't have any Maddie. But what I do like is that he did have thoughtfulness about he wanted to pair it with Pulse X, a deflating supply. And I liked that it was a locked supply. You can't create more Maddie. I don't think there's any tool that creates more. It's either gets lost because people lose access to their treasure or that's lost in transit or whatever it is, locked out. So like, that's kind of an interesting just mechanism. And part of the reason that people like meme coins that do stupid things and silly don't do anything, any stupid thing, but they don't have complexity of an inflating or deflating supply or buy and burn feature or any of those kinds of things is because they are fixed, just like Bitcoin is. Bitcoin has a certain amount that's emitted, but basically it has like a cap in its hardware or in its software. So and it's just interesting. It's interesting because it's almost like wearing a power suit or a power tie. If it makes you feel more powerful to talk to other people because you're wearing a power tie and you do talk to more people, then it is effective. But if it's like, if it's in your quill or your quiver and you've got plenty of arrows, but you're still not talking to people, what the fuck did it do for you? It didn't do anything for you.
Well, if we all invest in the same thing, we can all win together.
Yeah, we could all invest in Bitcoin, and then we'll all be in. We'll have won that.
Exactly.
Everybody just bought Bitcoin. If everybody just bought Bitcoin, that is your argument. And when we try and pivot and say, no, let's buy the thing that I got early in, or that I have inflation in, or I've been in here 7 years, and I like Richard Hart, it just falls on deaf ears. So all I'm saying is, if you're talking about mechanics of crypto, like crypto, that's at least as far as what Maddie said was permission to sign and all of his fundraise thing or whatever that he used as supply. It's just interesting because it at least is giving him, he was able to talk to new people that probably he saw at Bitcoin last time or Consensus last time because he had new products to talk about. And it wasn't so much a hard show. It's like, hey, this is what's going on in the space of like security. This is what is going on in the space that if someone hacks your wallet, then your coins get moved safely. And he even like had a $10,000 like reward if people could take his money. So I think that that's just it's conversation pieces. And if you're going to say, I like CDs because they lock up and I get the inflation of the supply, great. That's awesome. We've been talking about that for 6 or 7 years. It just gives you a new opener. It's a new opener. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and another thing I would point out to like people in the chat is like Gary hasn't benefited financially at all from Maddie token. Neither have I, right? It's something where I've never sold, and I didn't even tell anybody ahead of time. Like, so if we dissect what happened with Maddie token, we can see the 100 ways that you could get scammed by other people in other situations, because it doesn't matter if part of the liquidity is locked, if it's locked in a contract, and then people can still trade interacting with that liquidity. There's like, look at something that's new. Here's some alpha for you. So like pump.fun is part of the reason why Solana is doing so well. It's because it allows you to like launch a shitcoin, and a lot of people are like making so much money on it that they recycle the advertising dollars and scam people even more, because these are just tokens that pump for 10 minutes until somebody buys some, and then it goes to zero forever. And like, there was another experiment done called like hold.fun, and that's brand new, I believe, in the past week, and it's compatible with Pulse Chain. These are so I'm telling you like what what the millions of people who are adopting crypto and using it and like falling into these traps, like what are they being attracted to is like this narrative that, oh, once it reaches 40K, then the liquidity is automatically transferred to a locked pool on Radium in the case of Solana. But like, but that doesn't mean that the original person who launched the token didn't snipe this supply themselves. And like, you hear stories of what's the most innovative thing that people are doing in the shitcoin world is they're sniping their own supply in these celebrity tokens in order so that somebody else doesn't snipe this supply. We heard Hans admit publicly from the Pulse chain space that he sniped Bro token. And I didn't know that when I was letting people know, like, hey, you know, one of the top 10 influencers of all time in crypto, like, came to Pulse chain and launched something. I didn't know that the supply was sniped, but Hans, in my opinion, did the right thing by admitting it publicly and then telling people, hey, do you want access to this Telegram bot that snipes things? Because that is going to make people think twice about participating in shitcoins, you know, quote unquote, things that launch and are only active for a day or don't have, you know, people behind them. So the question is like, if somebody's launching a token, the number one thing that I want to ask them is, what's in it for them? What's in it for them? Because if they're locking the liquidity and they're not sniping the supply, then what is in it for them? Right? Is it they're trying to make LP fees? Are they, or did they actually snipe the supply and they were the first one to dump? It's, you know, tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I really think
ask Maddie, what's
matters.
in it for you?
For me, I want to understand these variables around tokens launching. I really didn't understand the fact that people were sniping things. I didn't understand that like $1 million of volume would happen. I mean, that happened on Fashion Coders token, on Solana. $1.1 million of volume on the first day. And you go in and you start studying these things, and there's what looks to be like a super almighty bot that bought half the supply and then sold it. And it's like they made this slight margin. They made a few $1,000s. But you see that in lots of coins once you start looking on Dex Screener at the top traders. And it makes you wonder, like, to what depth are there games being played here? And we can take that to these new audiences and say, here's how Richard Hart coins are different. Because Richard's in it for glory. And there was no pre-mine. And, you know, there's no games being played there in the sense of, you know, an unfair or untransparent market.
Hey, can I add something here? Not to get all biblical, but like, the thing that sprung to mind is how like the devil is often referred to as the Lord of confusion, right? And like if you can confuse you, then that can lead you astray because there's just like lots of distraction, and then you know you're tempted, and then you stray from the righteous path, so to speak. So here's my thought. I think that we've really kind of lost sight because there is so much activity that's going on, and not all of it's bad and not all of it's good. And it's like, you know, some are going to be around in 5 years like Hex has been, and some are not. Some are going to be around for 15 minutes and then they're gone. You know, we know all this, right? And it's compelling, and it's interesting stories, and there's lots of nuance and lots of detail on any number of them. We can go down 1,000 rabbit holes with this stuff. The thing that I liked about Hex is that, and I was trying to find my tweet about it, and it's like, I just tweeted it recently, or maybe it ended up on my notepad because I've been ranting a lot lately, and maybe it didn't make it to Twitter. But the thing that I really liked about Hex is like all other tokens, like meme coins in particular, was what I think I was talking about initially, was that they're a net zero game, right? Like if somebody made money, someone lost money. Like that's the nature of trading. I mean, you could even say that about the majority of stocks, right? Unless you're talking about dividend stocks and, you know, other things in the value companies and what they produce and what have you. But if you're talking about crypto at large, most are net zero, right? If you got people out there bragging about their massive gains, that's a big bucket full of people that lost money, or a few people that lost massive losses, right? And that's where the gains came from. What I always liked about Hex is it was really the first token that I was aware of where everybody can win. And that might seem weird because it's like, well, and this is what spurred the thought when Gary was mentioning about, or someone on the panel was mentioning about this narrative of, it's like, we want to get more people in so they can be our exit liquidity, right? And that is a shitty narrative. But by and large, in most things, that's true. With Hex, the thing that's unique about it, the nuance that I think that we've missed or forgotten, and I think you're all like, the light bulb's going to come on in a second for everybody if you haven't already beat me to it. Lamont Black explained it best. He talked about the transfer of the time value of money. And the transfer, he's in that movie, but then famously after the movie, the skeptic became a supporter and was very, very active on Twitter and had some of my favorite threads ever about Hex were Lamont K. Black. And he was talking about, the balance between stakers and liquid holders, and how because stakers are staking and delaying their gratification and thereby earning a distribution of the inflation over time, that is providing us less of a liquid supply and likely more price appreciation for the liquid holders who want to maybe exit. So if you extrapolate that out for literally ever, not just 15 years, that yin and yang, that balancing act can go on forever, because there's going to be people that are okay and I don't need any money out of crypto for years, maybe ever. There's other people that need it tomorrow, right? And, but with this, then it's like a self-balancing system, right? Like you've got people that are willing to have a 15-year staking ladder and restake all of their principal and their yield. And then that continues to have people over on the other side that are liquid and have ability to exit if they choose to as the price appreciates. So that's the thing that I think is something that really makes Hex stand out amongst literally everything else. And as we've gotten kind of mired down in these discussions about like, Pulse is going to be a ghost chain if we're not supportive of all these other builders and these things coming on, or this is a rug, or this is some liquidity game bullshit, or this is, just shiny object syndrome. It's the confusion. It's the lord of confusion. It's the noise that we all kind of get distracted by, where I feel like if somehow we could just kind of inject back in the conversation, because I know people are, and it's hard now because people are like, Altcoin Daily just posted, whatever happened to Hex? Like 5 minutes ago, they just posted that. So, engagement bait a little bit, probably. But it's like people are ready to dismiss Hex out of hand, and that makes our job harder. But it's like, guys like Crispy out there talking about the power of T-shares, having all those metrics on his website that is incredible for people that care to look. I think people, the last little piece of this is, I think, there's been this narrative, and I might have mentioned it last week, Briz, you can nod at me if I did already, but I'll hit it again real quick. Or we might have talked about in the green room. Sami's thing is like 90% core, 10% lottery, right? So instead of like, everyone's got like this all or none mentality, maybe the pivot needs to be, hey, maybe take 5 to 10% of your crypto investment strategy and put it in Hex and stake it, do a staking ladder just between now and when you think the next, the top of the next bull run will be. You don't have to do it 15 years if you don't want to. Just do it for the next 5. And just throw a little bit in there and see what happens. And I bet you dollars to donuts. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but I bet you the majority of the rest of that person's portfolio will not perform as well. And because you've already got an ace in the hole with you're earning more Hex every day that you're staked. So that is thereby lowering your cost basis daily. And it's like DCAing out without putting any additional capital in. And then if we get price appreciation on top of it and you have more Hex to show for it, then that's going to do pretty well, where we all know 95% of cryptos go to zero. So if you want to go play with this other stuff, that's fine. But if we could just convince people to have like a taste, I think we joked about it being like a crack dealer, right? Like give them a taste for free. Like let them know, like, hey, you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to be like me and have like 98% of your money in Hex, or whatever. It's like you can do 5%, of your crypto bags. Throw some in Hex and see what happens. And I think that they will look back and be like, man, I wish I'd put more in there. I really do. Somebody clip this and bookmark it and stick my nose in it 5 years from now if I'm wrong, but I really don't think I will be.
Yeah, I don't want to get into too much detail here, but I sent you over in the private a blog post that I did this week. I did an analysis of CDs versus hex staking, and in particular, trying to figure out how if I'm going into hex mining right now, I want to do a stake, and I did a million hex or whatever. How much of a price drop could I withstand and still beat CD rates on a 15-year ladder? And so it's quite interesting when you go through the blog, and kind of gives you all the breakdowns and the math on it. But I agree with you. I'm still sitting here every week talking about how I think the play is hex, a good ladder in hex. In my definition, a good ladder is 15-year ladder. Set up the way you want it to be set up.
Yeah. Well, it's hard though, Crispy, because it's like if you're at a bar and there's a girl and she's kind of, she's a little drab and she's just kind of sitting in the corner by herself and she's not making a lot of noise and she's just kind of minding her own business and not too outgoing. But she is going to be the love of your life. She's going to give you children. It's going to be a lifelong, wonderful relationship. But the rest of the bar is packed.
Hex is giving me 7 children a day per t-shirt.
There you go. Right? And it's like, but there's all these other girls that are just flooding into the place that are just head turners, one after the other. And 99% of them are going to either give you a disease or break your heart or both, right? And it's like, but, when you're a young man, we all know this, we're all men on here, when you're driven by testosterone like that, you don't even see that little girl down at the end of the bar. You don't even see her. And I think that that's kind of what we've gotten ourselves into with this prolonged bear market and with Richard's absence, quite frankly, because I think if he had been more active, and I understand why he's not been and couldn't be whatever, but I think, maybe that would have kept more people on task. But, there's been a lot of distraction. There's been a lot of interest out there. And if you hear, and I give my gambling stories all the time, but it's like very, very few times that I see any of my buddies that were, blackjack players or poker players, talk about their losses, but boy, if they had a big night that was a winner, you heard all about it. Well, the same shit holds true in crypto. You hear about people talking about their massive gains and how great they've done. Well, we already discussed it earlier. It's like, it's a net zero game on a lot of that stuff. So that just means a bunch of other people got wrecked and you're never going to hear from them. So, yeah, it's like, it's a harder sell, to get someone to say, hey man, see that girl down at the end of the bar? It's like, she's going to change your life, and maybe she's not turning your head right now, but believe me, she's going to blossom and she's going to put all these other girls to shame and she's going to make you happy and you're going to be able to count on her. Right. So, I think that's the challenge that we have ahead of us. And it's like, Gary is of the age range of Crispy and I, and Gary's very compelling. He's a great speaker and, engages with a lot of these younger guys in these communities and stuff. But I think a lot of stuff that like Crispy and I are more impassioned about kind of falls on deaf ears, because it's almost like, when you're growing up and you don't want to listen to your dad. Well, you live long enough, you realize dad was right, on most things.
Not your father.
but we could be, the father of a lot of these guys out here, because we're 50-year-old men, so it's like, it's not as sexy or interesting to listen to the old guy when you got, all your buddies like telling you about the mad gains and in the meme coin market that they went after.
I'm not immune to it either. I see what's going on, and I've fallen in a couple traps here and there, right? And I look at what's happening on the chain, and you know what? I'm experiencing, because apparently I need to fail at things, right, to really learn.
Yep.
And so I'm experiencing things firsthand, and of course my first love is hex. But when I'm looking at this stuff, I can come back and tell you I'm participating in all the things you're participating in. I'm validating, I'm farming, I'm LPing, I'm shit coining, I'm doing all of those things, and I'm coming back to the conclusion over and over again that Richard was right. That for me, my best path is that I should just stake my hex in a good ladder. That's what I'm coming back. That's my conclusion. And so now I'm trying to share that information over and over again. And there's lots of reasons why I talk about it every week, but they're different risk profiles and there's different things happening with all those things. And sure, there's some winners out there. I'm not saying people aren't winning. I'm just saying that it's not consistent enough for me. So I'd rather be consistent.
Yeah, there's different
Slow and steady.
psychology of people that are investors, gamblers, risk takers, prudent, pragmatic. Like you can throw any vocabulary word at describing a person's decision making when it comes to crypto, real estate, stock market, whatever, right? And so there's going to be an appeal to personality types. And there was a class of personality types 7 years ago that were basically cheerleading, bring your heroes here and to die kind of championing, that Richard was doing back then. And now we have a different group of people that are here. And, there's still the attraction for a protocol that serves out inflation to people that are staked for time. There's a time value market, basically. But we continue talking to the same people. I don't like that. I prefer that, if we've been here for 5 years, 6 years, and our Twitter, Instagram, YouTube invitation to be speaking on stage, and invitation to be a guest at Consensus, ETH Denver, like other events, even things that people think of as like, why would we go to the Bitcoin event? We don't like Bitcoin. It was like, that's because that's where the gatekeepers are. That's where the exchange is, that you like DeFi, but you want a fiat on-ramp. Coffee spent like the entire weekend just talking to fiat on-ramps. That's all. That's most of the people that he reached out to. And like, hardly anybody else was there. Like there was like 6 of us that were the Hex logo as a theme or something. And so I respect Coffee. He gets all kinds of shit too. He gets shit because he covers protocols when they're going to get launched by XYZ person. Some experiment. He gets shit, but he also has 40,000 followers, and he also gets a lot of engagement, and he gets recognized at events like Consensus. I was wearing my Pulse Chain lapel pin and talking with I think Brian Rose, the London guy or whatever, right? And he
London
recognizes
Real.
the Pulse Chain, the London Real guy. So he recognizes the Pulse Chain logo. I didn't say anything about Pulse Chain. He recognizes that. And then 2 other guys that were developing some other protocol, like around the narrative of RWA or real world assets. Same thing. Like people recognize, and then it does create an opportunity for conversation. But I think you have to be socially calibrated. I don't like the hand grenade kind of lob a grenade into someone's lap on Twitter. I think that's lost. I don't think you actually have a real connection there usually. And we've been trolled for years. We troll for years. And so being outside of this ecosystem is better for my mental health to continue engaging. And events like Consensus, I think, was useful to see people like Kurkowski and Mind Your Biz and Just a Cat and who else was there? Yazdeep. I haven't talked directly to Yazdeep since his whole P-Hex, E-Hex split, right? And we had a nice conversation. I introduced him to the Gary Cardone people. He starts talking about the things that he cares about because he's passionate about it. But if you're not talking to new environments and new people, I think we just lose traction, and we overheat in the mud bog of it,
Also, this show might seem like an echo chamber, a giant circle jerk, if you will.
It is.
But it's also it's a public record. What this is showing is a history of being around. We're going to be able to point back to Maddie's show from 2021 in 2028, and we're going to be like, this is why Pulse Chain isn't a scam. We've been around since 2021, and we got proof with our daily videos of Hex. And even though it seems like it's like an echo chamber, we're talking to the same people, it's actually an onboarding tool. All these videos are just more onboarding tools, in my opinion.
Hey,
do you guys want to hear a new idea that I have that I'm pursuing? A big reveal, if you will, in the category of onboarding.
Yes.
So for many years, going back to the beginning of my time in crypto, 2017, really, I was into crypto a little bit in 2016, but 2017 is when I really got in before the major bull run. And I cared so much about the scarcity narrative. And so to me, I started collecting physical coins. I started collecting physical crypto coins, and this was it was a major part of how I onboarded myself, and then I onboarded like 120 people in my personal life, friends and family, by handing out physical coins that have crypto a private key built into them. And I did this for Christmas, for weddings, birthdays, graduations, seeing people after like any excuse I could think of to give people $100 of crypto, whether it was Hex that was already staked or whether it was in the early days, it was just Bitcoin that was put onto these coins. And when I went to the Ethereum conference here with Gary and everybody else, I ended up meeting the founder of this company that I've been a customer of for many years. And it's called Cold Storage Coins. And these, so it definitely hit it off with everybody who works at the company because I know their product so well and I spoke so highly of it. We did some video recording for their advertising of me being able to speak as an expert as to why this is a powerful way to onboard people into crypto. But there are these 1 ounce copper coins. They come in silver and gold actually too. And it has a private key built into the back of it that's a fire proof. And this is a way that people can get started with crypto without all the hassle, without having to jump through a bunch of hoops. And you know, one of the things that I was telling one of the guys that runs this company, Cold Storage Coins, I was meeting with him earlier today, and I was telling him about the first physical Bitcoins that I got online were called Satori Bitcoin, and they were made by a Japanese company, and they were preloaded with 1,000th of a Bitcoin, which was like $10 at the time or $5, somewhere in there. And the reason that they chose the name Satori for these physical coins that became major collector's items is a Satori in the Japanese language means to have a moment of enlightenment. It's basically like an aha moment. And what I've found through onboarding 120 family and friends is that when I hand, yeah.
I wondered how close that word is related to Satoshi and Satori.
Satoshi means John Smith, like Satoshi Nakamoto is not, the word isn't tightly related, but it's just
so interesting.
But
that
it reminds you of it, yeah.
Means aha, like it's almost like I have an idea for Bitcoin, but the word is so close to Satoshi, Satori. I don't know.
I wish they were more related. But yeah, on these physical coins, they said that value doesn't exist outside the consciousness of man. And it's when I would hand people a physical coin and say, "You're in crypto now." And it was like a magical aha moment experience for a lot of people. And some of those people went on to be much more involved in crypto. And others, I programmed the coin for them once the Ethereum coin came along, to where I can time lock Hex, 15 years, native stake, and hand it to a family member, and boom, they're in. And if they want to do more, they can with or without my guidance. But that has been a major first step that I've found. And I just think to myself, like, how many of us who are involved in Hex and Pulse Chain have people that they don't want to spend hours learning about it. And they you know, it's just, if we gave them a first step, how powerful would that be to get, go from 100,000 people in Hex and Pulse Chain to 500,000 and beyond. And so I've got, I've sent them some artwork, and they're going to be making a Pulse Chain branded cold storage coin product. And these will be things that they retail for $20, and but I can get them at a significantly better price. And I'm really excited because it feels like you know what's been working for me. I think maybe that could work for other people, and even if it's just a handful of whales or a handful of minnows that are getting involved at this level, to me, it's been a breakthrough in onboarding, and so yeah, I'm really excited about it.
That's pretty cool. I'd probably
Very
like
cool.
to get one just as a novelty coin, but just FYI from my personal experience, whenever I gave away crypto to people to help give them a little bit of taste, to me, they always looked like I was handing them internet coupons, and then they just tossed it to the side. So I would say if you want to give people
did you give it to them
no
on a
big
piece
deal,
of paper or
but
on their phone?
yeah, give it to them directly to their phone. I said, here, download this wallet app, and then I just sent them like a little bit of Litecoin because that was the cheapest and fastest to transfer at the time. And you know,
Litecoin.
I always gave people like
There you
$10,
go.
and you know, no, everyone was just like,
Tether.
thanks for the $10 in internet coupons.
Monero.
I got to get back to work.
Binance coin.
So just I would just say, like, if you guys give anyone crypto, I wouldn't give them a significant amount, and more importantly, honestly, I would actually keep the private key, and if it hasn't moved or anything in that wallet after, I don't know, a year and a half, I would just take the money back because it's most likely the money's gone.
Richard has said in previous live streams, like, if you gift somebody crypto, you should keep a copy, because they'll lose it over multiple years. And that's been the strategy that worked the best for me. Is if I'm gifting somebody $100, I keep a copy securely, and then if they lose the coin, I mean, these are fire resistant and everything. That's pretty cool. But if they lose the coin or if they don't want to participate, at least I can help manage their airdrops for them and, you know, add to it if need be and stuff like that. So it's again, I feel like it's been a breakthrough, and I think it would be cool if other people got excited about this. And maybe Brisology, you would. Maybe when you test this out, you'll have a different experience than you've had when you transferred zeros and ones to people versus
like
somebody
said,
being able to hold this. Oh, this is a 1 ounce copper coin. This is your human brain understands metal coin good. Like there's something deep going on there in your psychology. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, you know, I'd probably like to get one just as a personal novelty coin, and then you know, just go from there.
It's interesting what you were saying about because I think that Roger did that something like that with Bcash or maybe Bitcoin also. You could do it that you could tip someone a certain amount of crypto, like you wanted to give a waitress or something like that, crypto. But then if it wasn't utilized within, like it had an automatic timer, you could set it for like 30 days or a year from now, then it would revert. It would go back to the original wallet or something like that. And then I think with like the time pays me thing, I think you could probably do the same thing. Isn't it like if it gets hacked, it gets moved to a second wallet? You set up and you can preset. So there are ways you can still do giveaways. It can be like you just said, as far as the coin or whatever, and still feel like I've given crypto to people in the past, and then you know either the relationship sours or something like that a year later. I don't know what happens, but like I'm like, fuck, I wish I hadn't given that asshole money. I wish I could like pull that shit back. But you know, so like it's interesting as because it's kind of like the freemium, even the affiliate stuff that we had when Hex first launched was, you know, it's a freemium. Basically, you're doing a freemium, and if it isn't claimed by a certain amount of time, it regresses or it evaporates. That it doesn't hurt the price later. Like there's so many mechanics that were built into the Hex launch, that AA phase, that I do wish, you know, even though it's like infringing on the idea, I wish that kind of stuff was available inside the ecosystem again, you know, just for like onboarding and stuff like that.
Yeah, and in this case, I think you guys will see more and more of my ideas coming out over time with how we might be able to bring the cost of this down so low that that the dream would be for it to be able to pay for itself in a way, or to be so low cost that this is a no-brainer for people wanting to onboard your 5 closest people into crypto, or wanting to I strategically onboard celebrities that I meet, or people that I really want to impress, and I know I'm not going to have a lot of time with them, but I've had major success stories of you can't even explain what crypto is as fast as you can hand somebody a coin and they get it. So it's definitely a breakthrough.
I like to keep these business cards in my wallet, and then
Love
I
it.
just hand these out to people that I think might be interested in making money. Mostly salespeople, Uber drivers, entrepreneurs.
I've got some collector items. My collector items are like Rick Krakowski's giveaway cards that he was giving during the AA. I liked some of these OG like histories. If you guys had your own stuff, early on, especially, I collect that stuff.
Yeah, and that's a huge demographic of people. It's people who like to collect things, or like a specific part of art, or a different spin on stuff. So yeah, like we're making history here in crypto with Pulse Chain, with Hex, and so the fact that we can celebrate that, I think, is really cool.
It's interesting. I wonder how that guy does the coin thing, because like you had said something before, like the private keys are known, or they could be revealed anywhere along the line, and it's almost like kind of buying a treasure from not Amazon or something. But it's curious about, like, I've seen different things where you try to almost like scratch your lottery tickets. Like the information's underneath that thing you scratch off, and then you find out, oh, I won $20 or I won $50 or whatever it is. That's kind of an interesting kind of giveaway, because it's still lottery. It's like you give away 100 cards and only like 2 of them can be actually prizes or something. I don't know. Like, there are ideas we just don't like act on, so very cool.
And time pays me, it comes into play here. And I was explaining that to the people who run this company, because in my opinion, I still believe not your keys, not crypto. Mm-hmm. And so that means if you didn't make the private key yourself, it's not crypto. And that kind of comes to a head here, where I've got something that I've witnessed over 100 times has been a successful onboarding mechanism to a certain level. And, so the fact, let me give you an example. So Lamont Black, we brought him up earlier. I onboarded him into a 20-year hex stake because I took a physical coin with me to the premiere that we did in Chicago for the Highest of Stakes. Shout out Tobiwan and the Highest of Stakes group. So I brought him a physical coin. I did one for Kelly Richmond Pope as well. And I set it up ahead of time, where basically I was gifting them $100 worth of Deci. I time locked it and time pays me. And then I realized afterwards, they can take custody of this compromised key that only I have a copy of. The guys who make these coins don't keep a copy of it, but we can never be sure of that. So this has always been an inferior way to onboard people into crypto, until Time Pays Me was invented, where you can set up a second seed phrase and you can take custody of your crypto at any time. And so I have dreams at night of onboarding 20,000 people in a stadium all at once, because printed on their ticket is a little QR code that the guy who owns the stadium, wanted it to be on there, and upcharged everybody $5 on their $200 ticket. And
damn
that
Ticketmaster.
That put, Pulse Chain into a QR code that just pops up on their phone and takes custody through Time Pays Me. But if they don't take it, it can be swept back into the funds to give out to the next people. So it's like this is a major breakthrough in somebody being able to take self-custody of a key where they didn't generate the key themselves, although they still got it from a chain of custody that is likely reputable and has a strong history of many years of never rugging anybody. This could be the type of compromise or the kind of technological breakthrough that we need in order to like merge these two things that previously didn't go together perfectly.
And see,
Does that make
again,
sense?
so to embrace the idea of experimenting and like learning, it's no one wants to lose money in crypto, but everybody loses money in crypto. Like we all have to go through the gates of hell in order to participate in crypto. But like, I think that's commendable. Like we could all say for the past 7 years, Hex only Hex, nothing else Hex. We could have migrated to a different chain that didn't have the whole gas issues. We could have done a lot of stuff. We could have done a lot of things. But now we are here, and here we are. And there are the things that are blue chip considered, because they're launched by a particular founder. But then, like, I want people like Maddie to experiment with these things. I want new ideas to be out there, and some of them are not. They're going to be loss leaders. They're just going to be like, hey, here's a way that we can talk about some aspect of crypto. And it's not necessarily a get rich. It's not necessarily a moneymaker, but like it's important if you do care about things like freedoms to transact or freedoms to speech or whatever, right? Like you have to have the thing that you care about. And that's what I was saying is, if we're going to continue this for the next, we're like 8 years away from a 15-year stake ending. Like when's the midpoint? When's the 7-year mark or 7.5-year mark? It's not far off, right? We've been here for a long time.
Yeah.
And so like, to continue
the end of 2026.
Yeah, to continue broadcasting, right, and saying, hey, here's what's going on in this ecosystem, and here are the new things that have been developed, and these are passionate people developing new ideas. Like Ethereum didn't stick with just crypto kitties. Like we're nobody's buying crypto kitties and talking about crypto kitties, but like it continued, right? So I don't know, man. It's like I said, if you're going to be a public figure in this thing, you're going to have a YouTube channel, Instagram channel, whatever. Set a goal for yourself, and it's not about like babying the people that are here as much, in my opinion. It is about like your channel should grow, your content should grow, your ideas should be spread. You can share, and be a maxi. You can share and be a degen, but like if you're going to be out there as a public content creator, you should be growing, and that's the market speaking. If you're not growing, if your content isn't growing, if your participation in your stuff isn't growing, if you don't have more people following you that have bigger accounts than you do, like you're doing something wrong, in my opinion. So growth is the narrative, especially when we have a year and a half at the most, by most estimates, as far as a bull run. It is about growth, personal growth, individual growth, broadcast. That's what matters, in my opinion.
All right, Maddie, it's about an hour, 47 minutes into the show. Yeah. I found what I think, I found some positive alpha content I would like to share. And I know it's unpopular, but it's positive content about Grandpa Coin Hex. Is it okay if I talk positive about Hex?
Let's hear it.
All right. So, basically, to start this off, I strongly believe in the sack daddy theory. That we have.
Wait a minute. You gotta walk back. Is it really Grandpa Hex? It can't be. It's only a year old. What are you talking about?
What?
Yeah,
it's only a year old. What are you talking about? It's not Grandpa Hex. Grandpa Hex is E.
Yeah,
you're talking about
crypto terms. We're about to put this dog down.
It's not Grandpa Hex. It's wet.
I got a dick with a butt.
Old Yeller, no.
Anyways, so I still believe in the sack daddy theory that we sent $600 million to Richard Hart, and that money might come back into the system, right? If Ethereum goes up to like 10 grand, and if And if the OA has 170,000 Ethereum, that's going to be $1.7 billion that could flow back into the system. And earlier today, I was on Deck Screener, and I was kind of looking at the biggest liquidity pools of Hex. And I think the biggest, I wrote this down, the biggest one I found, it was a liquidity pool of $19 million. That's pretty awesome. It's a lot of liquidity. And, you know, because it's 19 million, you could split that in half. And so it was $9.5 million in Hex that's available to buy. And that's 1.57 billion Hex. That's all there is in the biggest liquidity pool. $9 million worth to buy. And so like I said, I believe in the Sack Daddy theory. I believe $1 billion is going to flow back into the Richard Hart coins. And now think about it. That's 1 million times 1,000. And there's only less than $10 million worth inside the liquidity pool, inside the biggest liquidity pool. And so, I mean, do the math, guys. If the OA wanted to bring in 10, 20, $30 million and absorb all the Hex, I used to think, I really held the belief, I'm like, I think Hex could go to $1 to $2 in this next bull run. I really didn't see it going over $2. I was like, wow, that's a lot of freaking dollars for Hex. $2 already is a lot. That's a 200x. That is mind-blowing returns. Anyone that actually gets a 200x, like that's literally, like, I think 300x is Bitcoin at 230 to $70,000. That's like a 300x. So I mean, to get like a 3, 4, even 1,000x is insane money. So for a long time, I was like, you know, if we're lucky, Hex can maybe get to $2, and we can see like a 200x return on a 1 penny Hex. But now that I'm really thinking about it, and I looked at that liquidity pool, and I saw that there's only less than $10 million in there, and there's a potential for $1 billion to flow in. All I'm saying is, not financial advice, but do the fucking math. It's not financial advice; it's math.
Well, you know, I think that there's been a history on chain of like whale games happening and Poseidon games. And I think that when we look at how many T-shares the God Whale has, it's more than the OA. And so I've always been of the opinion, and the reason why I go to these like Bitcoin and Ethereum conferences too, and do the show every week and everything, is like, sure, we're preaching to the choir, but if one more God Whale comes in, you only need one guy. You only need one new billionaire to be like super pumped about Hex and Pulse Chain, and it would change the game. Think if you had two, right? Plus the OA. So typically I've seen like the OA in the early days was like keeping the whales in check and like shadowing some of their behaviors. Like if you know, if Rackham would buy, the OA would buy type thing. I think. So yeah, so it's really interesting to see and think about that higher level game that really, the diversity of our community and everybody appealing to a different audience is a huge strength, because it doesn't take 1 billion users with $1. I mean, that's a different kind of network effect. That's a different kind of value creation. And that can happen at any time. But also something that you can have at any time is that one guy who has hundreds of millions of dollars in crypto. If we onboard him, then the green candles become the best marketing tool to everybody else.
The other thing I'd like to mention about one of the reasons why I really like the Sack Daddy theory is basically I felt guilt in the past. I feel guilty, boys. I gotta proclaim something. What really was, it was like, we're all talking about the OGs dumping on our heads, right? Because people are taking profits, and I think we make people feel guilty about taking profits because it's like the only way that you walked out with more money than you put in is because you walked away with the money that someone else put in. And that's why I like the sack daddy theory, is because if that 170,000 Ethereum comes back into the pulse chain, personally, I feel like that's guilt-free money. That's a cash grab that we can all go for and not feel guilty that we're taking it from our fellow community members.
Good point.
So I think it's a positive thing, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, totally. That makes a lot of
So
sense.
that's my alpha, guys. There's
I
only
love it.
$10 million of hex, and that's p hex. Inside e hex, there was only $183,000 worth. It was like I think I wrote it down. It was 141 million e hex.
There's hardly any supply, and you'll move the price.
It's 141 million e hex, and that's worth $183,000 right now. Bros.
Top meme coin.
Tell
on
me,
Ethereum.
you guys think that we got a billionaire founder, a multi-billionaire founder, that all he wants is glory, and he has the will and the power and the means to make this shit pump to the moon and beyond? Guys, I am so freaking bullish. I'm glad he fucking unfollowed all your asses. Dude, guys, I'm just
back to
saying,
that topic. Not specifically about Richard,
one last thing. I just want to say, with this whole thing, I really feel as though the price coming down to where it's at is almost artificial. I feel like the train the brakes have been applied. More people are being allowed to get on. Let me just ask you guys one question. If Hex pumps up to $1, $2, $3 in this next bull cycle, and then it comes back down to 10, 20 cents, and we feel despair because we bought it $10 and now it's at 10 cents, are you guys gonna not get on the train? I think it's kind of clear after the third cycle what will happen. Gary,
Fool me once, shame on me, right? Or shame on you. No, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah. Sorry, Gary, you go ahead.
Not following doesn't mean not following. Just as a comment, zero following doesn't mean not following, and that could be about Richard. But then also I look at Elon Musk, 200 million followers, I think, somewhere around there, and he's around 1,000 people that he follows. Like, your input, what is your input? Richard has a history of being voracious reader, engaging a lot of topics that may or may not relate to crypto. So like, I just like the narrative around I'm not following anybody is just a story of the week. I don't think it really has any consequence, because not following doesn't mean not following.
He's following us on his alt account, and we all know his alt account is Hexalina. Just kidding. I'm just joking.
Hey, all right, guys, I gotta go. Great to visit, though, and again, keep building and going out there. Like our dinner, if we didn't already make the announcement, our dinner is on the 21st, so we'll be in Florida for the Manek thing, and Brandon and I are doing some setup before that, like pre-planning and pre-engagement with a lot of people that are from that app and from the different streams Valuetainment's related to. So we hope to have more content after the 21st, but we're trying to get things basically signed off with the PVD people first. So
Congrats. That's really awesome. And I love that you guys won the competition and drew the community together for outbound messaging. That rocks. Thank you.
Congratulations on
yeah,
that.
couldn't have done it without
Yeah.
like the supportive community and people. Like we engaged and we pestered and things like that. But I think it's worth it. So we'll see what comes from it as an event. But like again, kudos to you guys continuing streaming constantly. You're always out there. You're always nurturing the people that are following, the 150 or 200 people I think I saw when I came in the room. It's great that you're here. And if you
555.
digest the information is one thing, but like try to be a leader. Try and step outside of the comfort zone and do something more engaging. Not just you guys, but like your followers. Be leaders. It's good. I gotta go. See you.
Thanks, Gary.
Good to see you, Gary. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, this is for
Crispy?
you. This is for you, Briz. So I just did the math on you talk about potentially their value coming in, right? I think you called them Sack Daddy, right? So I went and looked. I went and looked at the current wrapped Ethereum pool to Pulse. Somewhere around 18 million feet at all up. Maybe there's a little bit more. But using those numbers, a double of the ETH price right now gets us to 2 zeros and a 1.
Nice. Love it.
So that means,
What?
and this is without anybody spending anything. See, I think a lot of people don't, because I don't understand it unless I do the math too. I don't think a lot of people understand just how wild this could be. So without doing anything other than the price appreciation, the price of Pulse will go up to 2 zeros and a 1, just from ETH doubling. Now, there's leakage in the system, so it's kind of like theoretical, right? Because money, value goes all through the pair. So it's not just one pair. But that first push would be something like that. And then something like 14,000 ETH on top of that, if there was roughly about 14,000 ETH also used to purchase or to be swapped into Pulse, that bring you to a penny. So it's not insurmountable, right? That you can see at
14,000 ETH or 140,000 ETH.
I don't know. ChatGPT is telling me 14,000 using the AMM and the numbers that are there.
Oh, wow.
But now I have to tell you that, of course, there's more variables than just one pool, right?
Mm.
But anyways, it just leads me down towards a path that says, these types of really high numbers are very possible, particularly when somebody lights the fuse, right?
Wow.
And I don't know, guys. We're gonna see. I think you're right, Briz. Though I mean, that was primarily the message. Briz is right again. That's what I was trying to say. But the idea that once people, because we keep seeing it, I think people are getting price biased in their head. You see these prices and you're like, the values, it's always going to be like this. And but you don't have to experience it too many times to realize that's not how things work, right? That's not how things work. And it's just like looking now, everything's clearly at the moment that everybody who wanted to get out should have sold in November of 21, December 21. Well, when you're in the middle of it, it's not really that clear. Right. And because otherwise everybody would have sold. But if everybody sold, then the top would have been made earlier. Right. I mean, right. It can't keep going up if you have people selling. So it is this kind of game. Anyways, I want to pass that along. So you can do your own math to figure it out. But I mean, perhaps, we're talking, I threw out a number like 20K, for Ethereum. If that's sure, that's a high number, right? For a possibility this year or next year. But if that did happen, maybe that alone would get you to a penny. Don't know.
Yeah. Maybe it tops out at 17K.
Yeah, I'll give you pick a number. It doesn't matter. Double, triple.
17 would be nice.
That's
I've heard people call as high as 25. So
that's what Bitcoin did at one point. It went up to 17,000, and then came back down to 3,000. So maybe that's what ETH does.
You don't understand.
We hit Richard's. We hit
We can't
Richard's
have
call
more
at 250K. We're in 10, what is it, 10 to 1? 25K for ETH and 250K for Bitcoin. Pretty
Hey,
wild.
listen,
Right now it's 20 to 1, but if it repeated what things have done in the past, I
Right.
think you're right.
Yep.
Okay, so that was wow. Okay, cool.
I'm gonna
That
ask
makes
Chat
it so
GPT.
bullish, guys, dude. I'm telling you guys, don't get shaken out. Don't get shaken out at this point. I'm
not
telling
going
you,
anywhere, bro. My bags are
you
packed.
guys, anyone that's buying not RH coins, trying to make it instead of buying just, I'm telling you, the RH coins is the, and I hate this term, the safe space of crypto, because I know that Richard Hart isn't going to rug us and run away with the money. And so, and
Oh, of course not. I mean, no.
And hey, I want to give a shout out to Pulse Nation, because it's like, it's not everybody's cup of tea. Their sense of humor can be pretty
I
brazen,
watched them
and they
last
can be.
night too.
And I think they're fucking
love it.
hilarious. And it's like, but I think it's a necessary component of just kind of the broad spectrum of what you need in a healthy, robust community. And yeah, are they going to be speaking to a specific subset of people that are like, very, very maxi? Sure. But it's fun and it's funny to try to shit on other people that are, maybe not holding up to their vision of what you ought to be doing in the market. And it does have an effect of solidifying the people that are in that mindset, right? That they're going to be less likely to pivot to other things. That does work for some people. So, I mean, so even though I can see poor Matty, it's like, he's been at the brunt of some of their stuff. It's like, I think they were going after RG on that stream too, and some others. But it's like, I think it's entertaining, and I think it does serve a purpose in the community. I'm actually going to be going on with them soon, so hopefully I don't end up getting myself canceled or kicked off Matty's show. But it's I think they add value. I really do, and it's and there's always going to be that those people that are going to want to duke it out. They're going to want to be some people might call it toxic, some people call it provocative. But it's freedom of speech. Once again, if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. Everyone's got their own sensibilities and perspectives on what they find humorous. But yeah, shout out to Pulse Nation. I enjoyed those guys.
yeah, shout out to Pulse Nation. I know you guys mean the best. I know you guys want the best for the community, and I know where you guys are coming from. Even if you
100%.
guys are a little toxic,
Dude,
You
they
wicked
freaking
motherfuckers. I'm
they went
talking to
after
you.
Too Spooky.
That's right.
Right? They went after Too Spooky hard. Like it
I
was
just-
like, and it was like right after he gave a super chat too. It was so brutally funny. And yeah, but yeah, those guys don't play around over there, but it's good stuff.
Yeah, I just want to say, gang theory again. Good to see you all. Briz Maxi, yes.
Hey, what's up, KG? Good,
I
good
love
dude.
KG's products. I really do. I think that's one of the
I've-
coolest things.
I've not
Yeah,
spent a lot of
it's-
time with it. I've heard really good things though. He's
It's
been
great
bugging me
because-
forever to do a one-on-one
Because
tutorial.
his thing
to teach me
collects
stuff.
a fee, and it's the profit sharing model where all the fees that his protocol collects, it goes to the people holding the coin, and I think that's great. And I wish more protocols had profit sharing.
Yep.
So
He's a very genuine, good person. I've always
I
enjoyed
also
my
just
interactions
want
with
to
KG.
say one of the reasons why I'm such a RH maxi is because I just see the potential of $1 billion flowing in from the OA. I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying I'm using common sense, and I see the potential of it. And I just don't see any other coin that has a founder or an OA that is $1 billion and that they want to give a potential, they want to inject $1 billion into their own protocols. I don't see
Crispy
any
nailed
other
it
protocol.
with the analogy of lighting the fuse, and I think we've seen this and we've talked about it before, where there's been like little injections of capital, just kind of testing the waters, right? See if there's people that are ready to just dump and get out of the way, or if they're, how many of those people are long haul holders. So when the pump is primed, perfectly, then it's the explosion will
even
ensue.
Ethereum with Vitalik and the Ethereum Foundation, they ain't pumping $1 billion into Ethereum. In fact,
Right.
they're extracting, and
Right.
and Vitalik, he's laughing. He's like,
Well,
"Oh yeah, I
there's gotta
told
be-
the foundation to take like $180 million at the top."
Well, when these ETFs
Well,
start
that's
doing what they're
smart.
supposed to do, it's like I think that'll be a huge influx of capital,
it's
and
gotta
then
be
the downstream effects of that are pretty
market making is involved there too, right? So
right.
So it would be the worst. It would be the worst move ever for the sacrifice wallet to put all its value into all the assets in Pulse. It would be like the worst move.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be just
Because
not
it needs
smart.
to maintain management reserve and everything else in contingency. Somebody's got to make the market. So we learned this, and Maddie's learning it firsthand now too. We learned this in making markets for the smaller tokens. Yeah, you get wrecked. You can get wrecked. You're actually setting yourself up because it's value extraction, and so there has to be kind of a trade-off for that, right? And what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, a portion, yes, all no.
You can't fight the market. And that's why I gave the example of like the OA in the past, like matching what giant whales are doing. I think that is that's an important principle to understand. Is like if you have a god whale accumulating 1.4, is it 1.5 million T shares, then then you have a healthy market where you can compete to the upside, and the OA can, compete. But if the OA is simply just trying to move the market on its own, then that is not as effective.
Correct. Correct.
And we gave the example back in the day of people swimming with the whales. And going in the direction of the whales. That's another, way that people think about this. And it's really important to understand like these market dynamics and like how you can't force the market. That helps explain why the community is so important here, because the equation doesn't end with sit on your hands and wait for the sack daddy to pump your bags. It's like, no, we need to be getting out there, trying new things, onboarding new users, retaining the people that are already here, and then through the compound effect of all these things, we'll get a force multiplier like we've never seen before. How cool would that be?
Absolutely. Well, something else to think of too is like, the big specter of the sell wall from BankX. Remember that? If you think about it, the OA and the SAC wallet being present is kind of like instead of a sell wall or a ceiling, it's like a floor, right? So, I mean, just the sheer thought of that being out there, I think is keeping a lot of people, from just capitulating entirely. So I think
have you looked at it lately?
I have not.
Looked at what?
The SAC wallet?
The wall.
Oh, the sell wall? I haven't. No. Mm-hmm. I thought it
Are you
went
talking
away.
about the BankX sell wall or the OA
or EHEX
reserves?
Yeah.
The EHEX sell wall from BankX.
No, I haven't looked at it.
I thought they removed it, or we're doing V3 or something maybe. I can't remember. But it was like obviously less of a concern now. But yeah, just as a comparison, it's like I think the OA and the SAC funds are kind of subconsciously creating a floor, so to speak, because people are expecting those things to run back in at some point to help ignite the bull run or kind of prompt it along the way. Because that's the thing. It's like once it starts to run, the psychology shifts dramatically. People think, that's why it's important to have a plan. Like, if you want to take profits, it's important to get a plan together now and not when the heady days
brother.
of, 2, 3, 4X in a week or something happens. And then, because then you start doing the math and you hesitate, right? And then maybe it rolls over on you before you know it. So it's important to have that plan. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see when that psychological tipping point and just the environment and the crypto space in general, as far as how the markets are performing, how that plays out. Because I think it's going to be really interesting that there's going to be a lot of people thinking, oh, hey, it's just another one of those 20% pumps. I'm going to dump it, because I can buy it back. And it's here's another one of those little things. And then boom, it's like, nope, this time you missed it, bro. It's like you sold and thought you were going to buy back cheaper, and now this is the real one. And you gambled and lost, and it only takes once, to you can do that so many times, but you miss the boat once, and you're underwater before you know it.
I'm telling you guys, I believe the train conductor, or AKA the market maker, has slowed down this train to allow more people to get on. And
let's go.
The more people that can get on now, before it goes up to, roaring speeds, the more happy people the train conductor, aka market maker, will make. And the more people that are like cheering about it, and the more people that are super bullish, even in the roughest of times, like myself, just the more people we can onboard. And I know I'm onboarding people in these current markets. And, basically the narrative that I'm telling you guys is how I'm doing it. And people like it. People connect with it. And so, look, guys, front run the market makers. The market makers are coming back, and they're going to come back heavy. And, we're technically in a bull market, I believe, because, Bitcoin went from 15,000 to 70, but it doesn't really feel like a real bull market. But I'm telling you, when we see like 10-cent hex, and we're gonna be in a bull market then, baby. You're gonna be mad at yourself if you bought genitalia NFT over hex. You're gonna be mad. I'm gonna tell you.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it's just gonna be a rush.
You're gonna ask yourself when it happens, when you get 10-cent hex, you're gonna be like, what the heck was I thinking?
It's gonna be rush to the exit, because that same degen mentality that gets people into like chasing these things and hoping that they're gonna make mad gains and actually be able to get out with those, with liquidity being what it is, depending on the subject at hand. As soon as the RH stuff starts pumping, like what happened just the other day, like when we had that 20% day or whatever, and Hexo was tweeting about it and streaming about it and everything. Or like if you looked, almost everything else that was non-RH went down significantly. So is that a coincidence, or was that people chasing the green candle over there on the RH stuff? And were they in profit to go do that, or did they take a loss on the stuff that they were fucking around in? I don't know. But I think that we'll just see more of that. I think a lot of these little peripheral plays are gonna take some significant hits when the RH stuff starts to move significantly.
Let's go.
Well, I would like to extend the $1 million T-shirt invitation to you. So when we get to, I am having a party. I'm going to host it when we hit $1 million a T-shirt. So you're invited, Toby. You, Briz, Maddie. We'll pick a good place. I don't know. Maybe we'll visit Crypto 7 over in Monaco. I don't know.
Hey,
maybe we'll
I'll bring the cat food.
You bring the cat food. We might need that too.
I would, to the person calling me a scammer in the chat, I would like to see where on chain you can point to me extracting value, because all the value is still there. So, read my tweet or don't, whatever, but it's a banger. And again, it doesn't bother me when people ask questions or, point the finger in the wrong way. Because
go watch the Hex Therapy show on Thursday. I believe you did a thing about you answered a bunch of questions regarding all that kind of stuff, and you said most people walked away feeling pretty good about it. It might not have been last week, might have been the week before.
The week before, yeah.
Yeah.
Last week I was really sick. Thanks for holding down the show, guys. I appreciate
We
that.
did all right. We did all right
Yeah, we went
until the very end. With I will not repeat Bruce's comment, but I was just like, oh god. Like, I hope Maddie's not watching.
Okay. Well,
I can't remember
Something about
what
Fast
you
Abdul. I don't know.
Oh
We're
yeah, I
gonna-
remember that.
we're gonna cut her off there, and why don't you guys tell people where to find you?
Stake them.
Briz, I'm Brisology on Twitter. Come make a stupid comment and get blocked. I'll unfollow. I will unfollow every single one of you motherfuckers. Don't think I won't.
Oh yeah. Here,
Look out.
Inviting.
Boom.
Look out. I'm what is it? At Tobiwan _Hexobi on X, and then by the good graces of my friend Matty Allen here with these other friends of mine on Tuesday nights on Game Theory Gang. And then almost every week I do a little 15-minute segment at the tail end of What the Hex with Papa B and DJ
What the
Cryptomatic
heck?
Peter. And
Great
the charts
show.
are looking interesting. I was just like, look, I was taking a peek at them earlier. So yeah, tune in on Thursday, 4:45 p.m. Their show's at 4 p.m. Eastern. I come on about 4:45 p.m. for the last 15 minutes, and we run through some charts real quick. And it's always a fun time infotaining over with those guys. But
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah. Glad to have Maddie back in the fold. We missed you last week.
I was bad. My eyes were like bloodshot. And I was like,
Yeah.
Crispy, where can people find your awesome content?
You can come here on YouTube, Hexfire.io, or Twitter, Hexfire.io, formerly the platform formerly known as Twitter X. But go to Hexfire.io, go to the blogs. There's a great blog out there that I put out there on comparing hex mining to CDs, in particular withstanding price drops. And it really gets into the detail of just how much of a price drop you could withstand with a 15-year ladder based on the current prices and still beat CDs. And so I think that type of thinking is what's necessary for people who are interested in hex. But that's it for now.
For me, I am Matty, mati.pls.fyi. Will take you to all my links. And Twitter is mostly where I post, other than YouTube twice a week for, I think I'm up to 183 or 184. Yeah, 184 weeks here. Streak going on YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night. Thanks to these guys for always showing up. The past 116 weeks. That's certainly a record here for the Tuesday night show. So let me see. Did I miss any? Oh, let me post ChrispyMan's a blog here. I haven't been able to see the private chat, but I'm going to drop that here so people can get that information. I saw somebody looking earlier. Somebody was asking in the comments earlier for this exact information
Thanks,
of
Matt.
comparing hex staking returns to traditional certificates of deposit. Shout out to ChrispyMan for bringing that here and doing the work. So until next time, stake wisely, my friends, and peace out.
Let's go, baby.
Let's go.
You got to stake that hex.
Sack Daddy's gonna bring $1 billion back, boys.
That